This is the new 2024 Chevy 2500 with the 6.6 liter gas V8 in her, and new to this year, the 10-speed Allison transmission. How much of a difference is it actually going to make? And is it actually the same Allison 10-speed transmission that's in behind the Duramax diesel? We'll find out. Oh, baby. Got the old Freightliner. Oh, get in there, honey. Oh, come on. There you are. What's that? After treatment problems? Who would have guessed? Well, we brought her in from the snowstorm. Along with the new transmission, there's actually a couple little styling updates to the 2024. First and foremost is right in your face here. Got a little hood scoop, which is actually not functional. It's just kind of there to look cool. I don't think it looks terrible. They've kind of updated the grille a little bit, which I actually don't mind. What I really like is they've actually put a badge, 6.6 liters, on the hood. I really wish they would do that with the 2.7 liter Turbo Max. I think that could actually be a cool badge, but it is what it is. We got the long beast here, crew cab with the long box, good old work truck in the old rental white. Welcome back to the channel, guys. I'm Alex. I'm excited to have this new Chevy with me. I was hoping today to put a loaded trailer behind this truck and see how that 10-speed transmission compared to when I towed with the 6-speed transmission about 6 months ago, but well, you guys can't really see, but out the window, we got a pretty big snowstorm coming in, so we'll have to hold off on the towing until next week. With the gloomy weather outside, I figured what a good chance to get this truck in the shop and just talk basics about this new 10-speed Allison transmission, go over some pros and some benefits that it can potentially bring to the 6.6 liter V8 platform, as well as talk about if it is indeed the same transmission that's in the Duramax diesel. And lastly, if the roads aren't terrible, we'll take this thing out for a spin around town and see how it handles, how it shifts, some fuel economy, acceleration in comparison to that 6-speed. This rather large 6.6 liter gas V8 made its debut in 2020 in the HD Chevy trucks, and honestly, I think it's been a really nice workhorse in the Chevy GM HD truck lineup. Aside from the direct injection, it is a very, very simple engine. Iron block, forged crankshaft, forged connecting rods, 6-bolt mains. It's a push rod V8. It just is a good, simple workhorse. And as I always say, usually simplicity leads to reliability. I think that's exactly what GM was looking to do with this engine. When I drove the 2023 6.6 liter gas engine, as well as towed 14,000 pounds behind it, I personally thought it was a great workhorse of an engine. You're not gonna win any races with it. You're not gonna win any fuel economy challenges with it, but it's got great low end torque, and it towed that 14,000 pounds with relative minimum drama, and that's exactly what you would expect from a good workhorse of an engine. Some of the main complaints I heard about this platform, this engine, are poor fuel economy, poor acceleration, not enough power, lack of power. And when I drove this thing around town, I didn't necessarily agree with that, but I did feel that like above 3,000 RPM, there was definitely a little bit of a drop off in terms of torque. At least that's what it felt like. And my fuel economy was sitting around like 10 or 11 miles per gallon, which just is really not great. Is the new 10-speed going to help with those complaints? I certainly think so. I don't think it's going to be the holy grail and solve everything. I think where it'll really help is in terms of acceleration. I think having those extra gears and those better gear ratios at all times is just going to allow this engine to put down much more power and torque to the wheels than it could previously with that 6-speed. GM certainly thinks that the 10-speed is going to really help with power delivery and torque delivery because, well, they bumped up the towing numbers pretty significantly for 2024 with this gas engine in a crew cab 4-wheel drive configuration, which is the most popular selling version of these trucks. You can tow now 16,000 pounds conventionally or off the trailer hitch. That's an increase of 1,500 pounds over the 2023 trucks. And in terms of gooseneck or fifth wheel towing, this thing will tow 18,400 pounds, which is almost a 2,000 pound increase over the 2023 gas truck. So a really, really nice bump in max towing figures. Those are pretty big numbers for a gas engine and creeping into the Duramax diesel territory. Although in 2024, the Duramax diesel did see an increase in its towing numbers as well. Most configurations will tow above 20,000 pounds, but in 2023, the Duramax diesel Chevy 2500 crew cab 4x4 had a max towing capacity of 18,500 pounds. So essentially, the 2024 gas engines can tow basically just as much as a 2023 Duramax diesel, which is pretty crazy. You don't get that massive upfront cost of the diesel engine or those silly old emissions that I personally just do not like. If you are towing 18,000 pounds behind this gas engine, you will have to stomach the rather poor fuel economy you'd probably get. So there is always some give and take. One of the reasons why a 10-speed transmission can give an engine like the 6.6 liter V8 more towing capacity is because it allows for the engine to sit in a much more optimum operating range that delivers optimum power and performance to the wheels versus a 6-speed. It also allows all engine systems to be worked a little bit harder because, again, the engine is sitting in the optimum conditions much longer. Stuff like fan speed, oil pressure, cooling systems are all going to be in their optimum RPM range or RPM band much better with a 10-speed transmission, and that helps to increase things like towing capacity. With that being said, the big question is this 10-speed Allison transmission the same transmission that's in behind the Duramax diesel? Unfortunately, no, it's not. They are different units, although they do share the same name, the 10L1000, but they are different. It would have been really cool to see that same transmission in behind this 6.6 liter gas engine. That transmission, I would imagine, is rated for well over 1,000 foot-pounds of torque. And while this engine, with not even putting out 500 foot-pounds of torque, would barely even break that transmission in, it'd be very over-engineered, which would just mean it would be really, really strong unit in behind this engine, but not to be. Apparently there are two different part numbers for each transmission. The gas transmission part number will be over here, and then the Duramax diesel Allison 10-speed part number will be right here. So they are different part numbers, as well as both units differing in price for about $1,000 each. From my understanding, there are a couple of differences, things like different torque converters, different clutch packs, and I guess it would make sense because, again, we don't need as heavy duty of a spec transmission behind this 6.6 liter gas engine. And I've also heard that if they were to just bolt up the same transmission from the Duramax, that heavy spec transmission could actually rob some of the power from this engine with those heavy duty internals. So they are different units. Another thing I found interesting about this Allison 10-speed is there's no skip shifting. I think most people are aware that Ford and GM both co-designed this 10-speed platform. And while they both kind of have their own final products, and GM does not do skip shifting on their 10 speeds, where the Ford, I believe it's the 10R140 in the Super Duties, they have skip shifting. So they can go 1 to 3, 3 to 5, where this transmission will go 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, all the way up to 10. And it's interesting because I've heard a number of complaints about the Super Duty 10-speed, shifting rough, not really shifting, not being able to pick gears. And I wonder if that skip shifting, that learning technique in the Fords is what's causing those issues, because you just, at least me personally, maybe I'm not looking in the right places, I really haven't heard that complaint about the 10-speed. Don't get me wrong, this Allison 10-speed is not without its issues, but it seems like less people are complaining about the smoothness of the transmission. And just driving this around town, I can say, despite it being a sequential transmission, not being able to skip gears, the gear shifting is pretty seamless. Now you may be wondering, well, if Ford and GM both co-designed this transmission, why the hell is Allison's name on this transmission? And well, I mean, I guess technically Allison did not build this transmission, but they gave their stamp of approval to GM's design. And I would imagine that Allison probably had a team of engineers work with GM to, design their final product of the co-designed 10-speed with Ford and GM. So technically, it is not a built and designed Allison transmission, although they have given it their stamp of approval. The older Allison 6-speed 1000 series transmissions that were in the Duramax up to, I believe, 2019, those were true Allison built and made transmissions, and well, they were pretty darn good, if I do say so myself. I think a lot of Duramax engines were sold because that Allison name was stapled right beside it on the logo. Let me know what you guys think. If you've owned a Duramax with the 10-speed or even a Super Duty with the 10-speed, what do you guys think? Has it been a good transmission for you or not so much? Let me know. Always like to hear what real owners have to say about their trucks. Well, we're on the road in this beast, and well, I guess two of the biggest complaints were fuel economy and lack of power, lack of acceleration. So currently, I've driven 60 kilometers in this truck, a little bit of country road, a little bit of city, some idle. So a pretty darn good mix of just general driving conditions or engine running conditions. And well, we're averaging 22.8 liters per 100 kilometers, which I mean is just really not good. You could say it's the winter, it's cold, you're not gonna get good fuel economy anyways, but well, when I tested the 6-speed, it was also kind of in the winter, so there's really not much improvement there, and I really honestly didn't think there would be. I think the Allison 10-speed, you're gonna see a lot better acceleration and performance there versus fuel economy. That low-end torque is still nicely there, really like that. The shifting seems really nice and seamless. Like even when you shift to get some power, it's still a pretty smooth shift. Yeah, we'll jump on the highway here and we'll do a little bit of an acceleration pull, and we'll compare that to when I did with the 6-speed. It's not going to be completely scientific, but it is the same on-ramp onto the highway, and we'll just see what happens here. All right, so let's say 70 kilometers an hour. And well, to the floor. Oh yeah. She rips through those gears pretty darn good. Definitely can tell there's a lot more gears, but to me that felt much quicker, much more responsive. And as I said, I think ripping through gears is the right terminology there, because it was just like 1, 2, 3, and then we're at, you know, our speed. I did find with the 2023 that once we got above 3,000 RPM, it felt like that pull kind of dropped off, and I don't necessarily feel that as much in this engine or engine and transmission combo. We'll see. I mean, there's 2,500 RPM. Yeah, she does have some better feel above 3,000 RPM. Oh yeah. I wanted to mimic just kind of a pass. We're on 90 kilometers an hour, and well, we'll go right to the floor. Oh yeah, 130. Yeah, it is always interesting to see how well or how much a transmission actually impacts an engine, and it's the exact same engine, obviously, with the same power rating, same everything. Yet when you strap, you know, a different 10-speed transmission to it, it brings that engine the ability to just feel so much more alive. And as I said earlier with the acceleration, it just feels like this engine can just rip through gears much quicker, and you can definitely feel that translate to the wheels by pushing this thing quite a bit more. I am very excited to get a load behind this truck and this new transmission. I think that's ultimately where we're gonna see if this thing really is the real deal. So look forward to that next weekend. Hopefully we get some good weather. Looks like we should, fingers crossed. and then we can load this thing up with 14,000 pounds and just really truly see the difference between this and the 6-speed. But as always guys, if you did like the video, don't forget to leave that thumbs up, and if you like cool stuff like this, don't forget to subscribe. We'd love to have you guys on board. Anyways, enough of me. We'll see you in the next freaking video.